Hey everybody, it's me, January 24th, Wednesday night, 2 days after this meeting. But they're going to be messing around here for a little bit, so let's talk for a minute while they're diddly-daddling around. Real quick, I had a documenters meeting training tonight, and I thought something was very interesting because it pertains to this any city council meetings. Also, I bit my tongue, very uncomfortable, but it's no big deal. We'll get through it. So they brought up like their workshop. If you go to documenters.org, you can see all this stuff. I took a screenshot of this, and I thought it was interesting that they canceled tonight's meeting on community affairs, and they're already canceling tomorrow's meeting on ethics committee. Very interesting. Not surprising though, because if you go through the streaming for everything, you'll see that they haven't had one in like forever. Like ethics. We just talked about this not that long ago. They haven't had one since 2019. And what was the community one? They haven't had it since June of last year. So I don't anticipate anything happening for quite some time for those meetings. But we got a little bit of time on this one. Real quick though, I want to talk about the Wayne Township merger, but there's a meeting tomorrow night at the Wayne Township Government Center to decide if IEMS and Wayne Township EMS are going to merge together. And then next month, they're going to have public comment for the Wayne Township Fire Department merging with the Indianapolis Fire Department. Just to let everybody know, I am completely against this merger for multiple reasons, but I want to wait until tomorrow night's meeting until we know for sure of what's going to be happening. That way, I kind of have like a better idea what to talk about because I think at this point, EMS is going to get merged up no matter what. There's just this Wayne Township has far too much debt and they need to cut it in half. Also, I got an email back from DPW about that fatality crash review team report. And oh boy, I cannot wait to put this video on. But I have one more thing to look at. I just want to double check, triple check, make sure I put a good video out with a lot of information, but kind of short at the same time. So I think these clowns are about to start. Let's get to it.
Good evening. I will now call to order the Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee to order for Monday, January 22nd. We'll begin with introductions, starting with my colleagues on the first row on the left.
Yeah, no one cares. So that the fatality crash review video should be coming out Friday night or Saturday morning, and I'm already excited about it because everything that I said about it all being bullshit, I was right. Totally vindicated, and I love it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brienne Delaney, District 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kristen Jones, District 18.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilor Jared Evans, representing District 17 on the far west side.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Barth, representing District 7.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Leroy Robinson, representing District 1.
Thank you, Councilor Maggie Lewis, District 5. The first item on our agenda is proposal number 4, approves the mayor's appointment of Abby Brands as the Director of Department of Business and Neighborhood Services.
Oh, this is going to be good.
I'm sorry, before you start, I want to allow our guest councilors to introduce themselves. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Andy Nielsen, District 14.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Carlos Perkins, District 6.
Yes,
Why are they here?
Thank you, Leader Lewis. I'm happy to present to you all this evening. My name is Abby Brands. I currently serve as the Director for the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services, and I appreciate your consideration to continue in that role. You'll have to bear with me. This PowerPoint likes to be a little laggy sometimes. So, just as a quick overview of our department, we have multiple divisions. There's Construction and Business Services, which oversees our issuance of permits, licenses, contractors' licenses, construction inspections, all of the big special events that you see in our city, like All-Star, we're involved in those, as well as assessing weights and measures around the county. There's Property and Land Use Services, which oversees a lot of our zoning inspections, unsafe building inspections, high weeds and grass. This is the group that addresses illegal dumping and litter, as well as oversees our neighborhood cleanups. Animal Care Services, I think everyone knows what that is here, but essentially Indianapolis Animal Care Services oversees the Marion County Animal Shelter and all animal control officers and enforcement initiatives, and acts as an advocate in the animal welfare space.
Let everybody know, BNS is terrible at their job, especially when it comes to permits.
Finally, there's Administration and Finance, which is kind of our internal working division that oversees finance, logistics, technology, and communications. A quick overview for staffing. So BNS is 295 people when you include all of those areas. Some are union. We have about 147 union staff, and those are all represented by AFSCME, Locals 1437 and Local 725. They've been tremendous partners to work with over the last year, and I'm looking forward to continuing that partnership. You'll see here, as far as union vacancies goes, we're at about 29%. Non-union vacancies, we're about 20%. And it may not seem like a big deal, but we moved our headquarters late last year from 1200 Madison to the City-County building, and I could not be happier about it. It has been a big culture change and will continue to be a big culture change internally as far as how we see ourselves in this larger kind of ecosystem of city government. And I think it's been a big help externally when working with DMD and DPW and our city-county partners. So just going over some of the divisions and kind of high points to talk through. For those of you who saw our budget presentation, a lot of these won't be new to you, but in 2023, we did an overhaul of our permitting processes working with Resultant, building out processing maps to understand where the gaps were in those processes.
A lot of them.
Part of that was partnering with DPW to look at variance processes, both on the drainage side and on the infrastructure and right-of-way side. We worked on reorganizing key roles. There have been a lot of issues as far as oversight in that we have one administrator who oversees all permitting, construction inspections, licensing, everything, and that is a lot to roll up to one person. We did an analysis with the Resultant on our third-party review. So sometimes when you hear that there's delays in drainage, that's because we send those to a third-party reviewer who is a subject matter expert in that field and helps us review those. And we wanted to see what kind of changes we could make coming into this next year where we're going to be rebidding those contracts.
Why a third party?
Finally, licensing changes. I think those of you who were here last year will remember we made a change to the taxi cab ordinance, which provided a more equitable legislation that aligned to the state. So for 2024, there's a lot of things we're focusing on, but some of the big things in this area, the NBA All-Star Game, we are very involved in this from not only the permit and special events side, but also on the enforcement side as well, and making sure that we're supporting
a lot
our
of hookers in
partners.
Indy.
Bidding third-party review contracts, like I said, we did an analysis to see what those gaps are. We will be rebidding those this summer. And while we have fantastic relationships with those partners, we're looking to really fine-tune those contracts a bit to make sure that we have incentives in order to get those reviews done faster, and maybe some clawbacks or things if they're not getting done fast enough. As I mentioned, reorganization, we have created a new administrator role to oversee all infrastructure and stormwater, which is a really big deal because that is a very big portion of the permitting work that we do, and there's a lot of subject matter expertise that goes into it. So having an administrator and a subject matter expert oversee that area is a big deal. We've also created 2 new program managers positions to oversee right-of-way and stormwater to assist there. And then many of you will remember last year we worked on taking away special police powers for those positions that didn't need it, which then lowers the age and the threshold that we're able to get people into those roles, and we're looking at local partnerships for apprenticeships. Uh-oh, I hit it. I feel like it's going to go twice. We'll see. Property and land use services. So in 2023, our neighborhood cleanups, we did almost 25 tons of litter removed, over 13,000 unsafe building inspections, and 35 structures demolished, one of those being a town and terrace building, as well as some other commercial structures as well. In 2024, we're going to be looking more at our equitable code enforcement, which essentially looks at what are the codes that we are enforcing, and are we enforcing any of those in a disproportionate way across.
Are you kidding me right now? Hey, I think too many black people are getting code enforcements on them. Oh boy, why is it mostly blacks and Hispanics that these fines and stuff are going to? It's not white people. It's I don't know what's going
These certain demographics.
on.
Part of this is working closer with health and hospital and making sure that we're aligning, but also looking at a lot of our own policies and
Oh my
procedures.
God.
We're going to be bidding out the city's towing contract, which is a big deal. There's a lot of pieces that move a part of that, including IEPD as well as BNS. And then we're looking into overhauling our camera enforcement program. So we've had cameras stationed around the county in illegal dumping areas. It hasn't really worked, the solution that we've had. So there are plenty of camera solutions that exist in the enterprise, and we're working with purchasing to see what will work best for us, because something that may work for IEPD doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for us. And it'd be really great if we had a way to have some level of passive enforcement, especially when it comes to illegal dumping.
Oh, what she's saying is the prosecutor isn't doing his job, and the prosecutor's office is not doing their job. So when there's illegal dumping and there's actual camera footage of it, how do we actually enforce the law on them? Because the way that they're doing it right now, it's not working. Here's an idea. Get a
Animal
different
care services.
prosecutor.
So, in 2023, we announced a new shelter site.
Oh,
We had been
boy,
focusing
this
on
one.
Sherman Park for some time, but I am very happy to say that we have pivoted and we'll be building the new shelter at 5001 East Raymond at the corner of Raymond and Emerson. We had a new administrator added. So when I came in, I saw that there was one deputy director, one administrator, and everybody else. And it was very clear that this organization was essentially set up to put out fires with that type of organizational structure. So by adding another administrator, we were able to kind of focus those kind of management duties in two different areas between front of house, adoption counselors, working with our volunteers, et cetera, and back of house being the more medical side and kennel side. We're working with partners for the Central Indiana Animal Welfare Strategic Plan because animal welfare is not just an ACS problem, it is a problem for FACE, it is a problem for FIDO, it is a problem for all the local shelters around us. And so we've all come to the table and are working on a strategic plan to see how we can address all of the issues we're facing. And we centralized financial oversight, which just means IACS for a long time has been on an island. And so by adding a little bit more financial oversight, we're able to make some more of those executive decisions as far as long-term contracts and things to make sure we're spending our money appropriately.
They're burning
In
money?
2024, we'll be doing an organizational analysis, which I'll talk a little bit more on my next slide. We will be going to the market for our shelter bond. We'll be groundbreaking, and we will be building a shelter. I am so excited to get this project finally going. Department-led ordinance changes. So I know some of you have spoken to some of our staff and some of our volunteers. Part of our kind of staff morale issue is that they don't feel supported.
Oh,
And part of that has been in the ordinance that they've enforced. So one of the conversations I've had with staff is departments lead ordinance changes all the time. So let's come together and let's have a conversation about what would better support you. And some of that is really overhauling the way that we look at breeding in Marion County. So we've been working on an ordinance that has had a lot of staff input, and I'm really excited to bring that to this body later this year.
I'm not a fan of breeding. Never have been. I think you're causing more trouble than good. And it doesn't matter what kind of breeding programs you have. I mean, we got these puppy mills right now that are a huge problem when they go to the pet stores and everything. But it's about I'll be surprised if this
Finally,
building
Best Friends,
gets
it's a national
groundbreaking this
organization that
year.
works with shelters. We're a part of their embed program where they're going to be sending folks to our shelter to kind of work alongside our staff and see how we're doing and how we can improve.
That's good.
So the final slide, big goals. Some of the things on here I've already touched on, and some I have not yet. So alleys and illegal dumping. For those of you who were here last year, we came up with a illegal dumping mitigation program. This is going to be a data-driven program where we're going to look at several data sources between our systems, between DPW systems, taking council input, and finding where illegal dumping is occurring predominantly in alleys. We're going to map this data as best as we can to see what hot spots exist, and then we are going to go clean those alleys and make necessary infrastructure improvements in order to return that quality of life back to that neighborhood. We have committed $5 million to this program. This year, we're working with $2 million to get it off the ground, and we're currently working with DPW on
$2
getting
million?
a
Oh my God, that's a lot of money.
The study for ICS that I mentioned just a minute ago, we want to do an organizational analysis to see what is the long-term sustainability of this organization. Should it be a part of BNS? What does the funding structure look like? I think more attention needs to be given on what is the long-term focus of ISCS.
I think
versus what
ICS
it
should be
is today.
separated, its own entity.
Digital and physical presence. So we've been working through an Acela migration for over a year. It's been a substantial amount of time. It was supposed to be done at the end of the last year. They won't be done until the end of Q1 this year, just because IT projects do that sometimes. But once it's completed, there's a lot of things in the hopper that we really want to address. One of those is a user-friendly simplified search, where people can just go on indy.gov and find an easy way to search up their property and see what enforcement activities have been there, or where their permit stands. Right now, we're not really meeting people where they are in that regard.
No kidding. It's 2024. The fact that you don't even have this right now is astounding.
We're also going to have a new lobby experience on the first floor. We've built out a knowledge base, and we're going to have a scheduling tool. So if we send you back revisions in your permit and you have no idea what we're asking you for, there's going to be a link where you can schedule an appointment with that permit reviewer and actually sit down and say, I just want to build a deck. What's going on here? And we'll meet with you and explain
That's why I
why
don't
we
ask.
requested
I
those
just do
revisions
my
and
own
what
thing.
we're asking for.
Fuck 'em.
A rate and fee assessment. So we've seen on our unsafe building side our revenue go down.
Oh shit.
We did a compensation study recently, which was wonderful as far as the enterprise goes, but that obviously increased our Character 1. We're going into unit negotiations later this year. That will likely increase our Character 1 too. And so just better understanding what our gaps are, understanding kind of post-COVID revenue shift and the way that's worked, and hopefully we'll have something to bring to this body later this year. The IACS shelter, so I mentioned we moved the site. We had a big site announcement late last year. We are currently adapting the old design to the new site to see how it can work. We're getting a survey underway.
A building is a building.
We're working on securing an owner's rep. I am trying to do everything I can to get a groundbreaking as fast as I can. I want a hole in the ground. I want this building built. It is one of my top priorities.
We'll see.
And then finally, equitable code enforcement, as I mentioned earlier, really just looking into our processes and how we can better align across the enterprise and with health and hospital.
You know, the only reason why this whole IACS building thing is got changed from Sherman Park to where it's going, I think on Raymond is what she said, was because of Jefferson Shreve. That was something near and dear to his heart. And Hogshead has had two or 3 years with that money, and they never got it going because Sherman Park was a giant dumping ground. It was going to require $12 million just to fix the ground so they could have any kind of buildings on there. And it just shows how shitty their leadership is, and whether it's in the Hogshead administration, whether it's in BNS, whether it's in IACS, is like someone dropped the ball on this thing. And I know the director of IACS resigned this year. I think she announced it last year, but it happened this
And
year.
with that, Leader Lewis, I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Questions, comments from councilors? Councilor Hart?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, really share my favorable opinion of Director Brands and just say a few words over there, working with her for the past few years, even before being on this committee. She's always been very approachable and easy to communicate with, always taking the time to have lunches or breakfast or meetings or phone calls or whatever it might be. She's always surrounded herself with great people on her team. I can't see her right now, but I'm specifically talking about Caitlin Morgan. She is phenomenal back there, and I think everybody on this council who's had the opportunity to work with her would happily agree.
You got a question,
and I know
buddy?
all the rest of the ladies are probably just as phenomenal to work with. Agreeing to that, I mean, some of the things we talk about here from a permits perspective, I've had plenty of conversations with Abby, and there's been critical comments, and there's been comments of how to improve it, and she's always listened and always been open to feedback.
Just yapping.
She's been happy to assist with the AI commission that we're working on, and adding even more time to that. And I think the level of effort that she puts forward for BNS and the importance that it has from constituent services perspective is phenomenal, and I would be happy to show my support for her this evening.
Thank you. Leader, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Leader. Brian Mowry, District 25.
Hours late.
Thank
He was
you,
hitting the
Councilor
bar
Evans.
before he got there.
Thank you, Leader Lewis.
Allegedly.
The Director Brands, couple of questions, comments. One, happy to support you today, but as always, usually with our limited funds and resources with city government, support often comes with some questions and sometimes even criticism. I still have concerns over the permit issues. I hear from people in the private sector who are doing these permits, people whose opinions I trust,
Sure.
who are at least well-rounded enough to tell me that this is an issue really across all of central Indiana. It's not just Indianapolis, but they still continue to feel that Indianapolis' permit process is very burdensome and worse than the surrounding counties. So, but it sounds like that's something you're still kind of getting in the weeds of and trying to look at. One thing in particular that I'm interested in understanding, because I know from conversations and experience, one of those third-party reviews, especially of the drainage, has been a problem for our city, right? It's not just a problem for BNS, it's a problem for the city of Indianapolis and the people who are coming before it. So I see that on the slideshow there that you're talking about reviewing that and maybe putting out different contracts. I don't know if you want to speak to that or not as far as what that process looks like for you. You don't have to name names and companies and all that. I don't expect that.
You should totally name out names so that way everybody knows, like, this company is garbage. No mas. We're not dealing with it anymore. If you really want to talk to somebody about building permits, you talk to John Schmitz. He is the host of the Mouthwash Talk Show, the fastest growing show on the internet, and he will tell you how many problems he has had with BNS. It is absolutely terrible. They've harassed him. Whenever he talks bad about them, they're at his front door fining him for something else. I mean, the whole system is totally fucked.
I'm happy to speak to it. So we are coming onto our natural rebidding process cycle through purchasing, and so it's a really good time. We have to rebid them anyways. And part of the analysis that we did with Resultant was really trying to look at what are other cities doing. Unfortunately, we didn't get the response that we were looking for from other cities. And I mean that to say we got some responses that were like, yeah, we don't really use vendors, or yeah, we use vendors and here's a contract, and it was not what we were asking for, unfortunately. But we were able to spend a lot of time looking into our contracts, looking into our data and pulling specific stats about turnaround times specific to certain vendors to really see and line them all up against one another to really see who was performing better or not. And I'm happy to have that conversation offline.
Why offline? Let's just make it online right now. Let's talk about it.
Documents and the way that we carry out this bid this summer, but also the contract documents as well. So we've had pretty standard terms year over year, and I really want to make sure we're adding clawbacks if we're not getting things done in time in the way that we agreed to, and that we're potentially adding some level of incentives if we can, but true SLAs that don't exist today to really hold our vendors accountable.
Give them a bonus for doing their job.
Said, you guys are looking at best practices with regard to that from other cities as well. That was going to be something I was going to bring up. Do you think the process in which we're doing in contracting these services out is the best practice, or is this something that we need to try to figure out and bring back in-house, or look at a whole other method in general?
I'm not sure. I think there's a lot we can still look at as far as other cities go. I truly was hoping we'd get a more robust response from the cities we reached out to, and I still want to reach out to additional cities to see what other answers we can find. We're talking about very specific subject matter expertise, and so by bringing that staff in, that would be a very large undertaking to really see what that program looks like bringing it in-house. It's not one I'm opposed to, but as of right now, I'm more interested in seeing how we can clean up these contracts for the time being to make sure that service is at least working the way it should be.
And I just want to say, for the record here, mad respect for saying that, because a lot of people come before us and they're afraid to tell us they don't know the answer right now. And so I really appreciate that. This is a difficult business. Moving over to animal care services, with the shelter, what positives are you looking at seeing with this new shelter?
What positives? How about that it was never supposed to be a shelter? Have you ever been in there? The whole place is a giant shithole. It's like something out of Green Mile. It's like no wonder these animals are getting euthanized all the time. I'm sure they're sad. It stinks like shit. I mean, I know they try to clean it up as much as they can, but it is sad, it's depressing, and it's no wonder none of those animals get out of there alive.
Well, so the current building was never designed to be a shelter. It was designed to be a holding facility. And so there are things that don't seem like that big of a deal, like kennels facing each other, that are a huge deal, because you could have an animal come in that's perfectly fine, and it mentally breaks by the time we end up having to euthanize it because it's been staring at another dog and barking consistently. And so there are design changes we can
Just
make in
like
the
prison,
kennel.
boys.
Our medical facility is essentially a glorified closet, and so being able to have an actual medical facility on site that our veterinarian can work in, and potentially bringing another veterinarian on staff as well. Actually having true drive-through clinic services, which we've tried to do on site, but that's been difficult at times.
It is
Being able to
difficult
have a
just to
clean
drop off
facility
food.
that doesn't have rodents or things like that going on. There are a lot of benefits to having a new shelter. Staff morale, I think, is
Jared
something that
Evans
will be
is
a
a
big
fuck.
deal. I will say, though, there are still plenty of problems that I do want to address outside of just the shelter, or we'll just be taking all of those to a new shiny building. But I do think there will be a substantial impact on having a new facility.
Okay, and then just last question, are we building and owning
That's
this
what
building, or are we subsidizing someone else to build it and we're going to lease it?
We will be building it, but it's part of building authority? Yeah, it's a
Okay,
building authority.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
Yeah.
This is how much of a scumbag this guy Jared Evans is. He has no heart at all, and this is what happens when you have no skin in the game. The dude has no job and he lives with his parents. He probably kicks their fucking dog and tries and drown their cat. That's how much of a psychopath this guy is. What's the benefit of having a new animal shelter? How about it's not a giant shithole? This guy,
Counselor Jones.
F this guy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Brands, thank you very much for your presentation. And first and foremost, thank you for the alleys and the legal dumping. You know that's very special to our district and my heart from my constituents. I hear it first and foremost more than anything is the alleys and the illegal dumping. So thank you for listening. Thank you. I know, Caitlin, you'll be a huge part of this, so thank you, and I apologize in advance for all my burdens and I'll put on you all for this, but thank you for listening, because it is a huge burden on our district and on our city as well. And as Councilor Hart said, thank you so much for when we bring criticism to you. You're very open, you're very blunt, you're very willing to take that. And I just appreciate your willingness to, we've had some tough cases, at least in my district, and sometimes the solution is not quick. And I appreciate your staff being willing to work with me and to work through the process, and working through the process to explain it so that I can explain it to my constituents what the process is. And sometimes it's not a quick yes, it's not a quick turnaround, but you've been very accessible. Even on the weekends, your staff is. Sometimes I'll report something and I'll see a city car within 30 minutes. I'm like, how did that even happen? How'd that happen so fast? So you all are very accessible. You're very transparent.
Of course, you're a city
and
councilor.
If it's okay with Madam Chair, I would love to be a co-sponsor on your reappointment. So just thank you very much for all that you're doing for us.
Thank you. Counselor Barth.
If Councilor Jones asks me to do something, I usually do it in 30 minutes too. The question I have, what you said, you hit on something I thought that was really salient, which was if we build a new shelter, it doesn't equal a better run or a better structured organization. And that's something that's been weighing on me, and this study, I think, is really meaningful. Could you spend a few more minutes digging into what's going to come out of that? I see organizational structure, long-term sustainability. It's like, what does that mean? Are you contracting for this vendor? Are they already selected? B, what's your timeline for when that's going to be done, and the tangible results you hope to get? What do you expect and hope to get, and then how are you going to turn that into some kind of actionable difference?
Sure. So yes, we would like to work with a vendor. No, we have not secured one yet. The timeline, I would love to have a deliverable in hand before budget, so that we could present whatever those findings are as part of our ultimate budget presentation. And I'm happy to keep people in the loop along the way. So we have the Central Indiana Welfare Strategic Plan, and that will inform some organizational things, right? But it's really truly focusing on that overall ecosystem. And so there are going to be things that it can't weigh in on from an operational perspective. I knew when I came in that having one deputy and one administrator wasn't good enough, and we created another administrator. Maybe that wasn't the right decision, but I felt it was the right decision at the time. And so taking that a step further, what does this organization actually need? Do we need a third administrator just focusing on enforcement? Right now, we pay enough in Character 3 as far as vet services that we could probably pay Character 1 to have a second veterinarian on staff. Should we be doing that route, or should we remain flexible with our Character 3 spend? Should it be a part of BNS? It is a completely different part of my portfolio as far as city government and the things I oversee. Does it deserve to stand on its own two legs and report to its own council committee and have its own budget be scrutinized? So those are just some of the questions that I'm looking to answer as part of that study goes.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. As you were making your comment about the adding the new administrator, it made me think about just that I hadn't thought through the whole cascade of staffing, and especially I'm imagining that there's some unfilled FTEs that might continue to be unfilled for a while, and are those FTE dollars better spent in some other way? I don't know the answer to that. I guess you'll get the answer from this, but I'm glad to have some external person who will help guide us, and I think having it done by the budget is
They don't trust her.
helpful. So thanks, I appreciate it.
That's what he's saying. They don't
Additional
trust her.
questions from Councilor Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Brands, for coming out here today. I was hoping that you could talk a little bit more about your new physical space in this building. I have heard a lot of talk about revamping the first floor and what's going to go on there, and if you could just tell me a little bit more about what you're going to be doing there and where you're at in the building.
Sure. So our main offices are on the 11th and 12th floor. Our first floor lobby will be in room 107, which was formerly a kind of conference space in between the
You have three
main
floors?
tower and the east wing. I do think there was a larger plan, and I think that's still being worked through Controller Reardon's team as far as what does it look like to co-locate all of us, but we knew we needed a lobby pretty quickly. So we will have our own space. We are working on figuring out what staffing looks best in that space. It's always kind of rolled up to the Construction Business Services group. Does it make sense to have it be in more of a neutral group? It will predominantly be a space just to take payments and things like that, but we have made space for kiosks. We have also built out a knowledge base where we've documented all of our processes and procedures. So if someone does come in, similarly to acting as an IT desk, you can ask a question.
That's what the AI
and
is
our
going to be
staff should
used
able to
for.
quickly look it up. And even if they can't get you all the way there, we should be able to answer questions a lot better than we have been in recent years.
I'm just thinking about it right now. You go up to the kiosk, some guy with Spanglish, and he's just like, Senor, I need to put up a fence. What's step uno? Oh, I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
We also will be developing that scheduling tool so that folks can ask for another appointment if they have questions about the revisions we've requested. And so there's a small conference space down in that room as well. So if you are someone who wants to come meet in person, you can meet down there, but we'd also offer Teams meetings for that as well.
Imagine like a hologram that drops down from the ceiling. And it's like, do you prefer English or Spanish? It's like, hola, señor. ¿Cómo estás? Oh, man.
Thank you.
Additional comments? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 4? Seeing none,
You
I'd
know
like
I'm
to have a
right.
motion.
Hey, you know I'm right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move that we approve proposal number 4, which approves the mayor's appointment of Abby Brands as the director of the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services.
The motion has been properly moved in second.
Gibson
All
is
those
really
in favor
trying to get in
signify
there,
by
isn't
saying
he?
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you so much for your presentation. With consent, I would like to take proposals number 5, 6, and 7 together.
Consent.
Thank you. Proposal number 5 reappoints Belinda Dre to the Board of Business and Neighborhood Services. Proposal number 6 reappoints Annie Lear to the Indianapolis Historic Preservation Commission. Proposal number 7 reappoints, and I do not want to butcher anyone's name, Anjanette S. to the Indianapolis Historic Preservation Commission. You do have all of their, forgot one more. Proposal number 34 reappoints Roderick Bohannon to the Metropolitan Board of Zoning and Appeals Division 3. You do have all of their information in your packets. Are there any questions or comments from councilors regarding proposals number 5, 6, 7, and number 34? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 5, 6, 7, or 34? Councilor Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to speak on behalf of Belinda Drake and thank her for her service to the city. So thank you, Madam.
Belinda.
Additional comments from councilors? Seeing none, Councilor Barth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we send proposals 5, 6, 7, and 34 to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you all for your willingness to serve our community. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 35, appoints Natalie Rodriguez to the Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals Division 1. If you please come forward and share why you're interested in serving in this capacity.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie Rodriguez-Hilt, and I am really interested in this. My background is economic
hyphenated her
development.
last
I've been doing
name.
that work for about 10 years, and then I was on the Plaque Committee for 2 years, and just really passionate about city development and being part of the future growth of the city of Indianapolis, and so that's why I'm interested in joining BZA.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and I apologize for
No worries.
messing up your name. Questions, comments
I
from
can mess it up.
councilors? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 35? I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Barth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we send proposal 35 to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve.
Thanks.
The next item on our agenda, again, I apologize for butchering names in advance. That is not my special power. Proposal number 36 appoints Timothy to the Woodruff Place Economic Improvement Board. And you can tell us what your last name is when you come forward and share why you're interested in serving in this capacity. Good evening.
Gwaltney. That's my last name.
Yes, sir.
I've lived in Woodruff Place for 42 years and served on the Civic League board and been a past president, and was asked if I would be interested in serving on the EID board, which I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Questions, comments from councilors?
You guys funny?
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 36? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Councilor Barth.
Art is cool.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we send proposal 36 to the full
great.
council with the due pass
Wait a
recommendation.
minute. Wait a minute.
Is there a second? The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve. The next item on our agenda is
Board of
proposal number 8, amends a declaratory resolution creating the Brooksfield Road, Irvington Plaza Economic Development Area. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Leader Lewis. Hello, councilors. My name is Emily Scott. I serve as the Administrator for Community and Economic Development with the Department of Metropolitan Development, and I'm here to give you a brief presentation on the Irvington Brookville Road TIF allocation area expansion. So just to give you a brief history of the Irvington Economic Development Area and Allocation Area. So originally in June of 2019, the Metropolitan Development Commission designated an economic development area for a portion of the Irvington and Brookville Road corridor. So for those of you that are maybe newer to this process, an economic development area is kind of the first step that is taken in order to enable the future creation of a TIF district. In December of 2022, the Metropolitan Development Commission expanded the EDA and created an allocation area. And so that process also went through a council and MEDIC approval process at that time. And today we're before you to consider the expansion of that TIF allocation area to include an industrial site that was not included in the original boundaries. And that went before the Metropolitan Development Commission in December of 2023 in order to be able to capture 2023 as the base year for that expansion. So just to give you a frame of reference for what we're talking about, so you'll see on your map the area in the purple is the economic development area that was established in 2019. The area with the gray or black kind of hashing was the allocation area that was established in 2022. And then the parcel on the far east or right of the screen in red is the area that we're looking to amend the allocation area to include. So that former industrial site is the Ford site, or now it's being called the Thunderbird site, depending on what language or history you're familiar with. So we're just looking to add that area in red to the existing area
really
in
goofy. It
the
looks like
black
New York.
shading. So the reason that we're looking to add that site, so at the time whenever the allocation area was created in 2022, we were a little bit unsure about the future use of that site. There were some plans that had been contemplated, but we didn't know quite enough about what might be happening there to include that at the time, but now we know a little bit more, and there's a few projects underway. So a lot of times, and especially as we were thinking about the creation of this TIF allocation area, infrastructure and green spaces were a primary reason for creating this TIF. And so as more, the Irvington area has a number of older industrial sites that have been generally underutilized or vacant for some years, and as new growth and development comes into the area, we want to make sure that we are able to invest in infrastructure that supports increased truck traffic, but also allows for appropriate safety and resident accommodation, as well as more potential traffic is coming into the area. So you can see, just as an example in a few of these pictures, just some of the either lack of shoulders or just potentially
sidewalks.
Street conditions that could be improved around turn lanes and other things to accommodate this site. So again, just some kind of existing conditions. So on that site, you'll see kind of the first economic development project that's coming out of the ground on that site. It's the Monarch Beverage Facility. So that, I think, potentially construction began on that maybe in late 2022 or early 2023.
Interesting.
And then the site continues to have a significant amount of room for future development as well. And so there are we don't have any sort of proposals in front of us. This is not being done to support a particular development or particular proposal, but we know that additional development on the site is likely in the coming years.
I don't know about it. So why would you need a TIF now?
So as when we create an economic development plan for an area that, again, kind of undergirds the creation and implementation of the TIF, we usually identify opportunities and challenges that could be benefited by this development. So we know that there is additional development coming to this area. It's located approximately to 465 and rail access. There's a number of vacant parcels that we're likely to see some development. And there's trail and transit improvements that are adjacent to the area or have opportunity to be implemented in the future. And the challenges that we hope to address through this plan, and hopefully the utilization of the TIF, are addressing some of the deterioration in roadways, creating additional pedestrian
I don't like it.
access
I do not
and
like
pedestrian improvements that may tie into trail systems and other multimodal improvements in the area. So before you today is a declaratory resolution for this expansion area. We've already had the council intro, and we'll be moving forward with the dates in February for council adoption and final MDC adoption in February. And in the meantime, we're working with Councilor Nielsen and a number of the Irvington area community members on just kind of continued engagement and understanding their desires for the TIF as we move forward. And with that, I will answer any
Nielsen
questions.
doesn't even have his own
Thank
place.
you
He
so
lives
much
with
for
his
your
parents.
presentation. Councilor Barth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions. Could you go back a couple of slides?
Sure.
There, right there. Perfect. Thank you. And so number one is the Monarch facility in the new area or the current allocation area?
Yeah, so it's in the area that's being added.
So it would be included because of the 2023 component?
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. And then, if you could go one. Yeah, there we go. So if you're saying there's nothing specific coming in mind, but this area is generating some interest, so it makes sense to designate this area now. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And
how do you pay the taxes?
From a potential need perspective, your thoughts are the roadways and the potential of some pedestrian accommodations is one of the things that you would use, or that would be attractive to someone to get them to come and invest in this area. Is that what we're envisioning by doing this?
Yeah, so I think whenever the allocation area was created in 2022, I think just the general need to have improved infrastructure that's both beneficial to development but also beneficial to current residents was a priority for the potential utilization of the TIF. So I think certainly that can be a benefit to support future development, but also a way to accommodate future development in such a way that the traffic is, less impactful to residents whenever the, roads are designed to handle additional traffic.
And is part of the vision to do that in advance of future development or concurrent or as a component of future development?
Yeah, so at this time, the TIF has just been newly created, so there's not a lot of increment in the TIF to do any specific project or fund any specific project with. So we're not working with DPW on any defined project in advance.
This sounds like a
of any
scam.
Specific development opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I was thinking more broadly about TIF use and investment in infrastructure and pedestrian improvements. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Hart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you speak to the benefits of how this will impact Irvington Plaza?
Yeah, so, I think with any site that's in the TIF allocation area or the economic development area, as we think about how the TIF dollars can be used to support, for instance, increased access to the Pennsy Trail or other infrastructure, it's possible that the future development at that site could, request infrastructure improvements that could be supported by this, but we're not putting this in mind with a specific goal to, fund a project at that site, if that makes sense.
Not really.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Okay. I guess with any TIF creation that includes more than one site, we know there's a series of possibilities that could occur. There could be, a new housing proposal. There could be industrial development. There could be needs for infrastructure. So the goal is to draw the TIF in such a way that allows for us to consider and for this body to consider requests on a case-by-case basis. And so as we know more about
what the fuck is actually happening right now?
Plaza site, I think there's a possibility that it could benefit from the TIF. I know from an economic incentives standpoint, we have no proposal or request in front of our team at DMD as related to that site. We know that there's some conversations happening in the community and some conversations going on related to potentially zoning or land use, but we don't have anything to formally evaluate as related to a TIF request for that site in particular.
Okay, so I just want to do a little bit of just expansion on knowledge for the members of this committee. So this expansion takes up parts of old District 18, new District 20, which is within my district. And so this area that we're talking about was historically it was called the Ford Motor Plant Company, which went basically out of company a long time ago as a manufacturing facility. It's been hard to get new development in. This new logistics facility it's huge. It's amazing, and they've done a lot of good work over there. We're expanding this TIF district to include that new logistics facility. So my expectation and understanding of this is that it will help improve the Irvington Plaza. The Irvington Plaza is not in my district. It's in it was in Councilor Larison district when we started this conversation, now Councilor Nielsen's district, and which is an area on Washington Street, which is also going to be part of where the blue line runs, which is desperately in need of any assistance, in which a lot of these development plans have been put forward and have shown the opportunities that can be created there for transit-oriented type development. Basically, think of an old rundown strip mall that hasn't been touched in a long time, that's touching a trail, and the people that live in the area want to see the same things that people who live on the Monon see, which is, shoppings and being able to come off the trail and enjoy, time in the area. I want to come off the trail and go to a brewery. My expectation and my urge to the city administration is that by expanding this district, I would wholeheartedly like to see as much of this TIF as possible go to help supporting the Irvington Plaza development, because that is both corridor to the east side as much as a corridor to downtown Indianapolis. And as residents come from 40 on either side, it's a really good opportunity for them to get a good grasp of what Indianapolis can look like. And, with, using parts of District 20 to support my neighboring counselor, I don't see it as one or the other. I see it's all Indianapolis. I think it's good for everybody, but want to see the benefits of those businesses implemented towards that plaza. So when the time comes for development, know that as the counselor who's helping to see this move forward, that's the desires of the constituents of my district as well.
Thank you.
Councilor Nielsen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilor Hart. You did a great job advocating for District 14, so thank you very much. I don't have a whole lot to say other than just thank you for carrying this forward. I think it makes sense from if you look on the back
what does
side
this guy
of this
do?
allocation
He doesn't have a job
for
anymore.
everything
So
that Councilor
what
Hart
is
said,
forcing him?
how we develop not just Irvington or the east side, but how it can be used as an example for similar projects that I know exist in all 25 districts in the city of Indianapolis. So I think this is a really good example, and I will benefit, again, not just District 14 or District 20. I know Councilor Jones, Christian Park is part of the allocation area, which will receive hopefully some of this money. And again, through the development at the Monarch Beverage Facility, using that as the engine in addition to the logistics hub on Brookville Road, again, to encourage future development and improve our green spaces that are in desperate need on the east side. So I just want to thank you, Councilor Hart, and if I haven't already, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Additional comments, questions from councilors? Councilor Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you briefly walk through the physical boundaries of the map? Was a little hard to read in the slide deck that you sent to us. I'd just like to know what I'm looking at.
Sure. So, yeah, if you'll give me just a moment, I may also just pull up maybe Google or something else just to kind of cross-reference, but
He's getting lobbied by somebody, but who is it?
But I guess in the meantime, essentially, we're including the Brookville Road corridor to kind of the southeast of the site, and then Washington Street is basically right along here on the northern end of the site, if you're able to kind of see where my cursor is, and then we sort of have the the park system over to the western portion of the site. I'm happy to send a map that maybe has the road, like the roadways, more detailed to you if that would be helpful. But essentially, Washington Street is this kind of east to west corridor right here, if that's a good frame of reference at all.
Sure. And you said the trails are on the what I'm looking at, my left. What are those? Is one of those Christian Park, as you were mentioning? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then to the north, that's, what is that one? Ellenberger Park. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Additional questions, comments from councilors? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 8? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Barth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we send proposal number 8 to the full council with a due pass recommendation.
The motion's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you so much. The last item on our agenda is proposal number 9, approves the transfer of certain real property from the consolidated city to the Department of Metropolitan Development on behalf of the Metropolitan Development Commission of the real property generally known as 37 Place, located at 2605 East 25th Street for redevelopment in a redevelopment district. Turn your microphone on, please.
There we go.
Thank you.
Now can you all hear me? Okay.
Yes.
My name is Kelly Shaw. I'm the real estate administrator in the Office of Finance and Management. And I'm here today, just as the resolution says, to ask the council to approve an intergovernmental transfer from the consolidated city to DMD of this property. I manage government use properties, and so we're just asking for the ownership to actually go to DMD, as the intention is eventual redevelopment of this property, and so they're the more appropriate city agency.
Why do you need to do it now, though?
And I'm joined today by my colleague in DMD, who I'll let introduce himself.
Hi, good evening, councilors. My name is Piers Kirby. I'm the real estate administrator with DMD.
Questions, comments from councilors? Councilor Evans.
Thank you, Leader Lewis. Could someone explain to us this property?
Sure.
And why the transfer?
It is an office building that is very close to the juvenile detention facilities. It's currently where the public defender agency has attorneys and paralegals that work in the juvenile detention facilities and courts. And so that's the reason why the city owns it currently. CICF actually manages the building.
Oh,
and
that's
some other
why.
tenants there as well, including
CICF.
a community-based nonprofit organization that the city and DMD would eventually like to help facilitate owning this property and redeveloping it.
Okay, go into some details on the latter part. So why is it going to DMD? Why do you guys want it, or why do they want it?
So the way that the ownership is now, the consolidated city actually owns the property. And so DMD has better legal strategies and legal capabilities to be able to transfer it to someone who would redevelop the property, and the city doesn't have that.
Okay, so they're looking at it from a redevelopment standpoint.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is actually in my district, so I'm very supportive of it. I'm really thankful that the city is looking forward towards the future in terms of redevelopment. This was a former school, IPS school years ago, and now it's an office building used by various sources. The community uses it a lot in terms of meetings with the fellow residents, but I think it's a good thing, and I'm happy to support it, Madam Chair.
Thank you, councilors. Councilor, additional comments? Councilor Barth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. I'm looking at now, you can tell that it's a former school. And maybe this is too early in the process to ask, but former schools often have a lot of administrative cost with them and HVAC issues and so on. I totally support this, but I'm just wondering, the nonprofit that's going to accept it, do we also help them with the financial planning to be able to accept the building and maintain it over a period of time?
So Piers may be able to answer a little bit better. The eventual process would go through the MDC, and so DMD would know a bit more about that, but I will say that it's been managed the entire time that the city's owned it by CICF, and so we don't have as much of concern for those things.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, DMD's typical process for evaluating redevelopment proposals for any of our properties is to evaluate demonstrated capacity for a proposed end user. So we'd certainly do that in this instance as well.
Additional comments? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 9? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Robinson.
Madam Leader, I move proposal number 9 to the full council. They do pass recommendation.
Get him to it.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you so much for your presentation. There are no other items on the agenda. Is there any other business before this committee? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. We are adjourned.
Well, that went splendidly. I don't know about that TIF. I think the logistics company is trying to get a better tax write-off, or however that's going to work on a TIF. I want to do a video on a TIF, but I don't know how I want to do it yet. I think I might like draw some stuff just because it's complicated, but it's not. But I want to make it where it's like little bite-sized bits so everybody can understand. where anybody could understand. On top of that, I never got an email back from OPHS. I'm going to email them back one more time tomorrow, and if I don't hear anything back, then they're just going to be on my shit list, and I might troll them a little bit on Twitter and Facebook. So, just a quick rundown of what happened. BNS kind of sucks. Who knows if IACS building is actually going to be built this year. I know that the director wants it to happen. We'll see if she's that motivated, though. I do think IACS should be its own division, though. That way you take a little bit of legwork off of BNS so they can actually file some permits and whatever AI hologram bullshit they want to do. Don't forget, Wayne mergers tomorrow, Thursday. I will be doing a video on that next week. Whatever, depends, no matter what happens tomorrow night, I will be doing a video on it. So, until next time.